Hello, and welcome to the Wade Borth podcast. I'm your host, Wade Borth, and in every episode, my goal is to get you to think differently about how money works and ultimately to empower you to take control of your money and your personal financing system. Hello, and welcome to the Wade Borth podcast. Today, I have, Kieran Nyland, who is going to be visiting with me today to talk about what a perfect client looks like. And I don't know that we have an answer to that, but we're going to address that a little bit today just to kind of lay the foundation for who and why we work with certain people. So welcome today, Kara. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, you and I have talked a lot about, clients and who we work with, just people in general that we want to have in our circle and that we want to have business relationship with. Because in the business world, if you're working with me, I've invited you into my business as well as you invited me into your business. So we've taken a long, hard look at what do those relationships look like? What does that client look like? How do we make sure that my client's values align with my value, or my values align with the client's values as well? So we have a much better relationship, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about, the biggest thing is I've heard you say is not everybody wants to follow IBC or understands it, or do they think that it's the best thing out there for wealth strategy? But you often hit on the fact that it's somebody who wants to change and it's somebody who's willing to learn and that they want to take control of their own life and be their own banker. We've got a whole nother series on becoming your own banker. But if when you say somebody is ready to take control of their life, what are those things that you think they need to do and the readiness it takes to make that leap?
Yeah. So, just some general characteristics of those, what I would call people that are ready. First off, it starts with, people have to have a love of other things and other people in their lives, right? So they have to love their family. They have to love those around them, their business partner, whatever it is. Because if you're just self-serving, obviously what we do, it will help you, but in the long run, again, because we're long-term focused, it isn't always, that isn't always going to be the case, right? So you have to have that long-term focus of wanting to help yourself, help your family, help everybody around you, and lift them up and moving forward. And it's really about empowerment. It's not so much about doing for you, because one of my core values, we'll talk about this in a little bit too, is that I want to empower people to take control of their lives and in their finances and really all the freedom that they want. And so part of that is, you have to have a desire. If you're going to be the client, you have to have a desire to take control of your own life. You have to have a desire in yourself to want to educate yourself. You have to have a desire in yourself to have the discipline. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that we encourage, we almost demand a certain amount of discipline around you doing certain things with your finances. And there's some people, quite frankly, that aren't ready for that yet, or not in a position yet to apply that discipline that's needed in order to work with us. Because we will ask you to do a lot of things, education being one. There's a lot of people I've talked to in the past that says, well, tell me what to do, or tell me this, or they want me to tell them what to do, or they want me to fulfill that need that they have. And I have a tough time doing that, because I understand where they're going at or what they're through, but those are some personal things, right? What's best for me? I think the best person to answer that is you, right? I will help you. I will empower you. We'll have a conversation around that about, what is your goal? What is your vision? What do you see that you want in your life for you and your family? And once you kind of identify what your objectives are, what your goals, what your principles are, then the second part of that equation is, well, let's align what your actions are with those goals and visions. And where I think a lot of people have that flipped around, right? They want to take their, I want to put my money here. I want to do this with my dollars, and then I'll align my values to that. Well, that doesn't seem to be a very good long-term strategy. It might work in the short term, but in the long term, it's not a great long-term, it's just not a great long-term strategy. So again, our job is to help you, empower you, not do for you, but empower you to understand what your goals, objectives are, what is you're really trying to accomplish. And then once you kind of get a handle on that, then it's like, well, what's a strategy that can get us there? And getting your actions to line up with your with your goals or what you want to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And something else that we've talked about or I've heard you say is when you think about a new client or you're proposing IBC to them, is are you someone who goes to the bank when you want to buy a new toy?
yeah. So that's probably sometimes a bigger hurdle to get over, is that people that are my clients that work with me on a regular basis are those that are willing to get out of this idea of conditioned thinking, right? So they're willing to think a little bit differently or a lot differently in some cases than most of their colleagues or most of the people around them. And a lot of that comes with education. That they start asking the big question. They ask the really tough question, which is, well, why, right? That will, if you can ask why a lot, you're going to address a lot of those questions. And what I mean by that is, um, we've been conditioned to think that if we need money to start a business or to buy real estate or whatever it is, that we need to go to a bank or a financial institution. And I just say, well, why is that always the case? Why are we conditioned to think that? And and the other one's, if we want to grow wealth, everybody's been conditioned to think, well, we need to put money in Wall Street or we need to put money with a broker. Again, this is all just part of conditioned thinking. I'm not saying it's not the place to put it, but is that your values? Does that align with what your value system is? Right. So, what I mean by that is, we've just been constantly bombarded with a message that if you need, again, you just have to watch TV for a day and you'll see all the, you can flip through the channels. There's like 8 financial, the MSNBC or the CNBCs, the Fox Business, the Bloombergs, and so on and so forth. There's a ton of those channels, and then the commercials. Half of them are bank commercials, right? Go get your financing here. Put your money here. I got a new app that puts your money here. And again, it's just this idea that if you need to do something financially, you have to do it through a bank. And if you want to grow wealth, you have to do it in Wall Street. And it's just a conditioned thinking. It's not so much a truth. And not saying that you maybe don't want to put it there, but we have to, again, understand what your value systems are, understand what your goals are, and make sure then what you're doing with your money aligns with those goals and values. And then ask the question, well, could we do something better somewhere else? Could we possibly be doing something better? Maybe by setting up your own banking system or your financing system. I don't want to call it banking system. Let's call it a financing. Can we start that financing system in our lives so we're the ones that are in control versus having somebody else in control? And what I mean by that, I had a discussion with a gentleman in real estate here the other day, and he was talking about the bank told him no because they didn't understand the deal he was trying to put together. And I asked him, I said, don't you find it interesting that the person that ultimately controls your deal that you're trying to put together has no idea what you're doing? So imagine if you could I said, just imagine if you could be working with somebody that completely understood what you're trying to accomplish, the risk and the rewards and all the intricacies of that go along with it. And that would be your financier, which is yourself. If you knew that what you're trying to do is going to be profitable, is going to make money, and then you can go to yourself and say, well, let's find a way to finance that through our own organization, my own self, or maybe my family's financing system. That's really ultimately what you want. You want somebody that's a partner in your business that understands your business and who understands your business better than you. And so now, again, it goes back to taking control of the banking function in your life, which means doesn't mean it's a free for all. You still have to apply certain safeguards because you don't want your own family financing system to fail, but you want that person or that entity to be a partner. And you could be the head of both entities, right? You could be the head of the financing function. You could be head of the wealth building function. If it's real estate, if it's 1,000 ways to grow money. I mean, it's buying a car to start a rideshare program, or buying a car to rent out, or vacation by owners, houses, whatever it is. There's just a million ways, unlimited ways, infinite amount of ways to grow wealth. And we just need the financing to be part of that and to be on board with that. And I just say, take control of that. And those are typically the clients that are my clients. So those that want to take control of the financing in their lives, or just take control of the freedom in their lives. Because once you have the financing and the wealth building side and the income side all in your control, it creates a tremendous amount of freedom in your life.
And I think the bigger thing that people who maybe aren't as familiar with IBC should know is that just because the word wealth is in what you do, and it's a word that we use quite often to talk about the type of business and what IBC does, is it doesn't mean that you have to be, for lack of a better word, wealthy to do this. You could be somebody, you could be a young 20 something year old fresh out of college, first job, but it was presented to you and you are maybe making $38,000 $40,000 a year. But it doesn't mean that you can't want to take control of your finances and be your own banker and set yourself up to achieve those goals that you want. You know, do you want to buy the car for rideshare? Do you want to have an investment property maybe that you can use as residual income down the road? But it also means that you could be making $400,000 a year as a doctor, but you have 4 kids and you need to think about that. So I think that's another important thing that people should know is your client is not discriminated by age or income.
Exactly. That a great point. Is that I hear it all the time in the marketing departments. You know, what's your demographic? Who do you work with? I don't look at it as age. I don't look at it as income. I look at it as people that are wanting to change. I'm looking at it as people that are wanting to take control, because the idea is if you have a big enough idea, if you have a huge aiming point, like I'll go back to, back when the NASA wanted to go to the moon, right? So they said, we're going to go to the moon. We don't have a clue how we're going to get there. So they had this huge goal, right? They had this aiming point. And it's the same thing here. Is I have 25, 28-year-olds that are saying, I want to do X, whatever X is. So they have this huge goal. And then it's the pursuit. We have the target. We know where we want to get. And now let's put together with the pursuit. It doesn't matter where you're at, right? It doesn't matter what your income is. It's your attitude about, how much are you willing to do and change and have self-discipline and understand what your goals are, and then go through that pursuit process. And the pursuit process can be very beneficial because it gets you real clear. So, okay, this is going to get me to that goal. So this idea of having this big goal on the horizon, and then how are we going to get there? And we're just going to start that process. And that's really what what we talk about in the mindset of IBC, or just really improving yourself into wealth. Again, wealth is just this idea of where I want to be and where I want to go. And then the pursuit is, okay, how are we going to get there? What are the strategies we're going to use to get there? So again, it doesn't matter if you're 25, 55, or 65, right? Because hopefully that never ends. And if it ends, I guess, we're going to graduate from this world. I'm always changing my goals. I'm always changing my horizon, because it grows with, your horizon, or your aiming point changes as you grow in your knowledge and grows your income and grow in your age and maturity. All that's going to change, but you got to start somewhere with this aiming point. So it makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Cool. Well, so as we wrap things up, it's just the idea of, who is a client that I would say is a good fit for me in my organization. It is those that are, wanting a change. Number one, they want something different. They have, they don't like where they're at. They don't like where they see themselves going. They don't like being stagnant in their life, right? So they want something different. That's number one. Number two is, I want, people that work with me are typically those that have discipline and say, okay, I know what I need to do. I'm going to do X, X, and X, and we'll help them lay it out. Again, I'm not here to do it for them. I'm here more as a coach to bring them along, a guide, as it were. Say, I think, if you want to get to that point, that peak over there, this is going to be the best way, just from experience and from understanding and studying. This is going to be the best path for us to get there. It might not be a direct path. Quite frankly, that's the thing that most people want to go directly to that point, but it could be maybe the best way to get there, the most efficient way to get there. It's kind of a roundabout way, if you think about climbing a mountain or whatever it might be. So again, somebody that's looking for some change, having some discipline, willing to commit themselves to what they need to do, and then trust, using a trusted advisor, like working with me, and working with somebody maybe on our team that can take you up that mountain, and then trust, and then also believing what your goals are and what your dreams are, and then finding that support group around you that's going to help you along the way, because it's never as easy as it's ever written out in paper. So there's always going to be bumps in the road that we don't foresee, but it's the whole idea of what are we doing to prepare for those bumps? And I think that's probably a key point too, is that preparing for those unseens along the way, that helps us, weather those storms and allows us to pursue that ultimate goal that we're trying to accomplish. So that would probably be the best way to describe who is it that I work with that, likes to work with me, and having conversations with those clients that we've had very good relationships with, that they fit kind of into that mold. It doesn't have to be 100%. I always say if I can find somebody that fits 60 or 70% in that, in those objectives, we have 60 or 70% alignment. We can do tremendous things, and we can grow the wealth and grow the freedom that they're looking for.
Very cool. Well, hopefully that will help clear up for some people who maybe aren't as sure about IBC and what it can do. Maybe hearing that they are your ideal client will make them want to reach out and have that next conversation with you.
Yeah, I would love to have them, contact us and have a discussion, because I've had discussions with people that what they wanted and what we're able to provide wasn't a good fit, and I would rather know that up front. We've said, hey, maybe we can help find you somebody else that can fit what you need, because again, at the end of the day, I have a long-term objective in this business. I kind of jokingly say, I've been in this business over 30 years, so I'm halfway through my career. I got another 30 to go. And I want clients that are happy, engaged, and if it's not a perfect fit, that's not going to happen. So then I will help them find somebody that is their perfect fit, because from a standpoint of abundance, if we would all do that in this world, right? Help people find their perfect fit, then other people are going to help them find us to help find a better fit, so we can help each other grow to much greater heights. All right. Well, thank you, Kira. I appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me again.
If you're enjoying this podcast or know anyone else that might be interested, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, and please leave a review. This will help this podcast reach and help more people by ranking higher in searches, and ultimately help more people get out of financial bondage. And don't be afraid to share this podcast with your friends and family, as we can be easily found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.